Video is going to be a complete tutorial on the Zack attack indicator. So we're going to go over how you claim the indicator, how you get it added to your TradingView chart. We'll talk about setting up all the alerts. I'll explain in detail the different functionality of the kind of the technical criteria that have been embedded in the indicator. So that's going to be going over how the auto support and resistance works, supply and demand zones, all that good stuff. So it's going to be a very long video, but it's going to have every single thing that you would want to know about the indicator. So it should answer almost all of your questions. If you have any questions, again, you can always redirect those towards me. So first, I opened up a fresh new chart on TradingView. So right now I'm on the 5-minute chart. I do want to let you know that the indicator will work on any time frame for any security. However, you do want to have volume, so there are some theoretical indices that don't have volume, right? So like the VIX and things like that, you won't be able to get some of the signal functionality. The PRs will still work, but some of the signals won't work because volume is one of the criteria, as volume price analysis is a very common way to analyze price, and just, in general, you want to have that on your chart. So first, once you claim the indicator on WAP, if you go to your indicators here at the top bar, you click on that, go to invite only, and start typing in ZA. You should see the indicator right here. Just don't click on this icon, or just click anywhere in the white space here, and that'll get it added to your chart. So you'll see it take a couple seconds to load, and then it'll get added. So personally for me, I have my candles just a little bit differently in terms of the shading and the opacity. So I prefer some somewhat translucent candles. They're a bit easier on the eyes, so totally unrelated to the indicator. But if you right click and you go to your settings, and then you click on the candle body color icon here, I like to set this to about 30, and you'll see how the candles themselves, they kind of become more translucent, and they're a bit easier on the eyes, and that helps me kind of when I read the charts. So really small, but I've gotten some questions on how you can change the coloring of your candles, so that's a quick way to do it. Now let's go into the actual indicator settings. So on the top left, you'll see this arrow here, and that's indicating how many indicators you have on your chart. So if I drop this down, you'll see I have volume, which is just a default indicator on TradingView, and then we have the Zack attack motherfucker script right there. So the eye icon allows you to hide and unhide the script. So if you want to get rid of everything just to draw whatever you want, you can do that. Right, the settings icon is what we're concerned with here. So if we click on the settings icon, we're going to get you all the settings that you can actually change yourself in the indicator. So number one is the trading hours. So the trading hours does default to Eastern time. I don't know if that's because I created it on Eastern time, or that's just the general consensus of how things work, but when I set this to 9:30 Eastern time, for me, 9:30 Eastern time is the beginning of the markets, right? So if your markets start at a different time, right? If your markets start at 10, you can set that to 10. You can set it to whatever time you want. Now, what this does is it's containing the signals and whether they're plotted or whether they even generate an alert in that time frame. So if I set this from 9:30 to 9:30, that's 24 hours. So we're actually going to get signals showing up in pre-market as well. You can see this upward PR, this long signal here, this downside PR. Those are all triggering in pre-market. So if I want to get rid of those, if I'm only concerned with signals during the market, then I want to set this from 9:30 a.m. to 4 p.m. So 4 p.m. is going to be 16, right? This is 24-hour time. So if I set that, give it a few seconds, and then you'll see those signals are gone. Now what's nice is they're not just gone on the actual chart, right? We're not getting any pre-market signals. They're also, if you set an alert, it's going to be based off of the time that's in the indicator. So if I were to generate an alert now, I'm not going to get any alerts or notifications for anything outside of the time frame that I've set, right? So for the purposes of this demonstration, I'm going to keep this at 9:30 to 9:30 because I would like notifications in pre-market as well, because I like to know what's going on. So that's how you alter the time for the signals. The second thing is your EMA colors. So the EMAs are what are part of generating this EMA cloud, right? You can pretty intuitively see that the EMA cloud is the distance between these two EMAs. So if I want my shorter or my faster EMA to be a different color, I can make that a different color. If I make it orange or yellow, you'll see that it'll give us a yellow one there. And if I make, maybe I want the top one pink, right, my slower EMA, my lower, or I guess my longer period EMA, you can see I can change the colors on those. So for now, I'm going to keep them what I like to have them as, which I think I actually flipped those, which is blue and white, right? What you can also change is the color of the EMA clouds. So whether this is because you prefer as opposed to red and green for bullish and bearish, if you have other preferences or you're colorblind or something along those lines, you can also alter the color of the EMA cloud. So if I make the bullish EMA cloud white, you'll see this green cloud flip to white, right? By default, I have it as, that's the wrong one. By default, I have that as green. Same thing with the bearish EMA clouds. If I want that to be something maybe lighter on the eyes, if I want to do like instead of a red, I want to do this pink color, I can do that, and you'll see that this will immediately switch shades to that pink color. So by default, again, that's just red and green because that's pretty widely accepted as bullish and bearish or long and short colors. Another thing, you could just disable this cloud. If you don't want it, you can uncheck enable EMA cloud, and that whole thing will disappear, but you will still have your EMAs, right? If you don't want your EMAs, you can also get rid of those. So this style tab is going to allow you to remove all of your lines and your EMAs, VWAP, things like that. So I can uncheck these individually or both, and I can get rid of my EMAs just like that. So again, all of this stuff is able to be toggled. Now, let's go ahead and hit the replay button so I can get a more accurate representation of the automatic support and resistance. So the way this automatic support and resistance works is that it'll interpret price pivots and areas where price has significant reaction, right? And it'll designate those as automatically plotted support and resistance, and then as price develops and moves outside of those levels, it'll generate new levels. So you can see here the support and resistance, they're defaulted as white, but you can actually modify them to be whatever you want. If you want your supports to be green and your resistances to be red, then you can do that, and then you'll see here. Now keep in mind the color is generated based on how that level was plotted. So if when that level is plotted, it's a resistance level, it's red. But again, we know that if price closes above that level and we pull back to that level, obviously that level is below price, so it's acting as support. So again, you can change your support and resistance lines, and I currently have them as white. And another thing that you can do is you can actually change the I guess you could say the concentration of levels or the number of levels at your chart at any given time. So the look back period can be kind of summarized as how many candles it looks back to plot a resistance or support level. So if we are encapsulating 15 candles, data from 15 candles to generate a level, or we use 5 candles at a time. Obviously, if we're looking at 5 candles in any given time, that's going to give us more frequent levels. So kind of to represent this, keep an eye on the screen here. You'll see how many auto support and resistance levels we have at 15. Now let's change this to 7, and then watch how things shift. So give it a few seconds, and you'll see we got much fewer levels. And then as I decrease this number, more and more levels will get plotted. Okay, so let's take a look at what happens when we have 5. Well, we're getting a lot more frequency in our levels, right? We have both of these levels plotted here, and you'll see as price develops, our levels are shifting, right? You'll see, so now we're looking at this range right here, right? We're only really concerned with immediate price reaction to the support and resistance that's plotted. So this is a pretty heavy resistance here. These are the double supports there. You can see that resistance is working there, and it's just kind of dynamically adjusting based on how price moves. And the nice thing is, if you still want to keep those levels on your chart, obviously this is a memory thing, so it's not going to infinitely keep every level on there forever. But I did have it leave these tags where it'll actually tell you what level the support and resistance was at previously. So then you can actually just draw them yourself. So pretty cool. Now let's go ahead and reset the support and resistance look back period to the default of 15. So I do 15 because personally I found that is a good medium where you're getting a good amount of levels, but you're not necessarily you're getting a good amount of levels, you're not cluttering your screen, and you're really getting only the super important ones. So when I have it set at 15 here, right, this is what I'm really concerned with. We can see this heavy resistance point right here was rejected multiple times before dumping. It actually acted as support here. We see that this level that was active support broke, and then now it's acting as resistance. Same with this one. So that is how that works, and you'll see these kind of just shifting as price develops, which is really cool. Right, so those are our support and resistance. That's how you can modify the look back period. And again, if you don't like these green labels, basically everything on this indicator can be toggled on or off. So if I uncheck this show support and resistance labels, you'll see that little eye icon is spinning for a little bit, and then you'll see they'll actually get removed. So now we don't have any of those R and S tags at all on our screen. So if you don't like those, you don't care to draw levels after they're gone, you can easily uncheck that, and then it'll go back to normal. So another thing here is the arrow size. You can see the arrows on these long and short signals. So they default to a smaller size, right? Because on mobile, if you have too large of an indicator, it can kind of clutter your screen. But if you do prefer the larger signals, you can just click on this drop down. By the way, each of these has some details on how you can actually do some of these different things, right? So zone, defines the color, zone size, things like that. So let's go ahead and change this to normal, and then you'll see this will increase in size to a quote-unquote normal size. A lot better on a screen like this, right? So it's a lot bigger, it's more pronounced. But if you're on mobile, you might want to keep that as a normal, or as a small size. So that's how you alter that. Now let's take a look at the PR signal. So the bullish PR signal, the way I want to explain this is PR stands for potential reversal. So this is a signal that takes, so all these signals need simultaneous criteria. And the reason that we want that is because the biggest focus, when adding, when we're getting a conviction on our play, we always want to have multiple pieces aligning in one trade, right? So if I have, 2 pieces of conviction are bullish and 3 are bearish, then I'm not, that's not giving me a huge indication of which way to lean, right? But if I'm getting 5 pieces of conviction that are, bullish in one way and maybe 1 or 2 bearish or even 0, that's going to give me a much higher conviction to take that play. So the PR signals have 5 pieces of simultaneous conviction. Now, what we focus on is if we're looking for an upside PR or potential reversal, which is this green X, we're looking for buying pressure. So let's take a look at this one right here, right? So following the short signal that dumps us into this demand zone, we're getting this PR signal. You can see the buying pressure visually on this candle, right? You can see the volume is gradually confirming that this candle has the highest volume out of all these candles, and it's showing us some buying pressure, right? So we're looking for a short-term bounce. And again, if we mark this level ourselves here, right, you can see that we get this PR signal and we immediately shoot up to that next level. So the PR signals are looking for short-term reversals, and we look to get in and out at the next level of resistance or support. Now, sometimes these can lead to much longer than short-term reversals. I mean, we see this potential reversal here actually mark the high of the entire day, and we ended up dumping from there on. So that truly was a reversal, but typically we want to scalp these because it is going against the trend in a sense, because you do see we still are in a downtrend. We're just looking to get a quick scalp off of these, which you can see here on these PR signals. But anyway, in terms of toggling them on and off, you do have that functionality. If you don't want these on, just uncheck bullish PR and you'll see these just disappear. Same thing with the bearish PR. So all of these can be toggled on and off. This is VWAP. You can have your anchor period, your source, and all this, if you want to offset your VWAP. So there's a little bit of configuration on the VWAP settings. I keep everything as default, and I keep it as orange, but you can also change the color of that. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is the dynamic key levels. So the 4 most important key levels that you'll see traders using intraday, and Zack too, is pre-market levels and then intraday levels. So pre-market high and pre-market low can act as very strong support and resistance. You saw pre-market high was not retested, so I can't show you an example here, but you can see that pre-market low was tested here. So you can see pre-market low, we got some bounces once we hit that area, and we actually had a pretty decent retracement before dumping. Here we tested pre-market low again, got a slight bounce in the clouds, but once we closed below pre-market low, that was it. We had a new range established and we continued to dump. So it's nice to have those on your chart, and they will adjust, per the day. You can see this was the pre-market low and it plotted there, and then that was the pre-market high. Now, high of day and low of day, these are important because if we see a low of day getting broken, then that gives us, an idea of kind of, so let's say that we based here, right? And then if we see us break and close below low of day, that could give us, depending on the trader you are, conviction to enter a position on a breakout, either above high of day or below low of day. So those are here, right? So we can actually, if we want to disable these, we can take off these labels. So let's just take them all off right now so you can see. So the labels can actually be toggled off and the lines can stay there. Now if you want to take the lines off as well, again, go into your style tab and you can actually take off the high of day, low of day, pre-market high and pre-market low lines. So now you can get everything off your screen. So the lines and the labels, they're all toggleable. So whatever you want on your screen, whatever you want on your charts, you can have that. So I'm going to go ahead and reset everything back to the default. Let's get all of our labels back on there. Now let's talk about supply and demand zones. So these supply and demand zones, they use pivots of previous days, strong pivots based on highs and lows to generate zones, right? These are zones of support and resistance, and they're very important because as opposed to just a line of support and resistance, a zone gives you a lot more room to work with, right? A zone can act kind of as a wall or a floor, and you can expect bounces or rejections. This is a really good example. Look at this zone right here. Let's take a look at this demand zone. You can see how this is acting as support, a region of support as opposed to a line of support, and that's being respected. We bounce off that area. Now look at this supply zone. You can see that we are inside that zone, but we never close above that zone. So I like to use closes. Again, you see we bounced off this zone here. So supply and demand zones are great. You can think of them as just areas of support and resistance as opposed to lines. And those are automatically plotted, and they will dynamically shift. You don't have to touch them at all. Now you can actually change the colors. If you want to make your supply zones red, and your demand zone's green, you can absolutely do that. Just keep in mind that the supply and demand, the color is based on how it originates. So if it acted as a supply zone the day it's generated from, it's going to be red. It's designated as a supply zone. But if the zone is above you, by default it's supply, and if zone is below price, by default it's demand. That's kind of just how price works. But if you want to just keep them white, kind of just to make everything, okay, let's do gray, not white. Let's do this like lighter gray here. You want to keep them that way. They're a lot more translucent, and they'll kind of be easier to work with if you make them that gray color. And actually, I think I changed something else, but let's make those gray. I think I accidentally changed my support and resistance to white. I'm trying to find the default color. I think maybe it was this one. No, let's do one more. Let's do this one. I think this was the proper color here. Okay. Yep, that's it. Alright, so now you have your supply and demand zones, and you can actually toggle all of these on and off. So if I uncheck all of these, you'll see them disappear. Just give it a few seconds, they're all gone, and then you can check them back in. Same thing with the style. If you want to, well, I guess when you remove the zones, the labels go away, so you don't really need anything in the style tab. Now what you can do is you can actually increase or decrease the size of this zone. I have it at a very good, it's 30 for a reason, that's the optimum zone size, but if you want to keep increasing this, you can actually increase it, right? It's going to increase the size of your zones, and you can even offset the label if you want it to move right or left. Again, we said you can change the supply zone and demand zone, the color of the zone, but you can also change the color of the label as well. Yeah, and I have built-in capability for actually 5 more sets of zones. But I feel like 5 is the nice medium where you have a good amount of zones. Now I could start adding all the other zones, right? And it would kind of maybe clutter up my chart a little bit more, but you can see we're getting another zone here, and that's actually respected. But my golden rule is 5 zones, but of course I give you that functionality to add as many as you want. So there you go, guys. That is a tutorial of the actual, setting up the indicator. Now we're going to talk about setting up alerts, right? I wanted to save this for the end of the video because you can quickly kind of skip to the end if you want to see this, but it's actually quite simple. First thing you want to know is your conditions that you set the alert on are the conditions that they will remain. Meaning, if I change my market hours to just, market session and I set an alert, then the alert will only be for those hours. So please be careful, because if you want alerts 24 hours or you want them in a certain period of time, you need to make sure your trading hours reflect that. That's it. And whatever time zone you set the stock on, so if this is 5 minutes, then all the alerts will be for the 5-minute time frame. If I switch to the 2-minute, which I can, then the alerts will be for the 2 minutes. So if I click on this add alert, okay, I'm going to have to exit replay mode, which is fair. So let's exit replay mode. Let's click on the add alert here. And then you can see right away our script pops up, right? And then there's conditions. So you can create alerts for both buys and sell signals, which is the long and short, as well as the PR, the upside PR and the downside PR. So let's say for me, I really want to know when we get these upside PRs, because you can see here it gave me some nice scalp opportunities, right? So I can make it, let's say, potential upside reversal alert. And now it's going to give you some more options. So there's a few different trigger options. So you can have it alert you. First, let's go to notifications, because I want to show you the kind of notifications you have. So number one, you can notify in-app. So if you have the phone, if you have the app on your phone and you sign into the same account, you can actually get push notifications on your phone. And that's really one of the main ways that I use this, is that, if I'm at work or if I'm doing something, I'm busy, and I get a notification on my phone that I know to look at the charts because the setup that I like might be happening. So you can have it notify you via push notifications. This is going to be on your desktop. It's going to show you a pop-up, and it's also going to play a noise, and that noise can be configured here. So you're getting the app notification and the desktop notification. You can even have it send you an email, but I don't do that. So anyway, the trigger is important. So as the candle is forming, the signal forms in real time. So if we have it only trigger once, that means once the PR signal triggers, this alert is disappearing. I don't want that, okay? Now, I want it to be once per bar close. If you do it once per bar, then you might get notifications that a PR is happening, but then when the candle closes, that PR is no longer valid and the signal will disappear, because the signal only sticks if the conditions remain after the candle closes, and those are the ones that we care about. So for me, I do once per bar close. Okay, once per minute, that's very annoying. That means every minute it's going to remind you. So once per bar close. Now, open-ended alert means this alert will never expire. Every single time QQQ has a 5-minute upside PR notification, I'm going to get one. Now, you might need a higher level of TradingView. It might kind of restrict you to like 1 week or 1 month at a time, but then once it expires, just kind of renew it again. You don't necessarily need to have an open-ended. And you can title it whenever you want. So I might want to title this QQQ 5-minute upside PR. There's already a default message that I have coded in place, but if you want to, add some more descriptors to it, like maybe QQQ 5-minute, and then you can hit create, and then boom, your alert is there. And you can actually look at your alert log somewhere down here, but now the alert is active, and it'll alert you every single time. So that's how you set up alerts. We can do the same thing for the buy signals, the sell signals, it doesn't matter, and it can be for any stock. So that should about cover anything. If you guys have any more questions, just shoot me a DM or an email, and I'll get you taken care of. Thanks.